My name is Tolong Dawung, and I am a director at OPSA. So today, I just want to share with you where I come from, and where I'm coming from is basically also driven by how we need to structure our career development, because it's important that wherever you are at this stage now, if you haven't planned your career development of where you want to be in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, and if you haven't given it a thought, it's time that you do that now. And I think with the whole COVID thing, the lockdown and how it has affected a lot of organizations and us as individuals, that has become an eye-opener to many of us in terms of we need to stay ready of the changes that could come, and some changes come unexpectedly. So, and in other organizations, it could be a change that is brought by an executive that is leaving, and the new executive that comes in totally changes things around. You need to be able to be in a way that you are well positioned, that you can be able to adjust to the changes that are happening. So that's why it's important that as an individual, you take care of your career development, you make sure that it's well planned, and you are the person who can actually drive that. So my history, or my career history, I started working as a receptionist. In fact, I started working at a wholesale as a cashier, right? So during those years, I then started studying, and what I studied administration, right? I studied office management. And then I was appointed at Val University many years ago. So there I worked as a receptionist. And as I started as a receptionist, and it was in the medical department. So I worked there as a receptionist, and one of my goals was basically to build my career and give it direction and for me to grow. And many people would actually look at the position of a receptionist as that other position, but it is as important as any other position in the organization. And the reason I'm saying this is because if you don't have a reception, or rather a receptionist, you don't have somebody, or rather a gatekeeper, basically, because the receptionist plays that important role of being a gatekeeper, and that means they have to. My apologies, I'm trying to plug this in here so we have enough light. So if a receptionist doesn't understand the operations of the organization, and also doesn't understand the importance, or rather different positions within the organization, they will fail as the gatekeeper of the organization. So that's why it's important that you have a receptionist. And a receptionist also has to understand that they can either make or break the organization, because if they're not doing that job well, it means that the functions won't operate well. And I'll give you an example. As I was working in the clinic, basically, we'll have calls that come in, and it will be an emergency in another department. Maybe somebody has collapsed, or somebody is very ill, and that obviously you understand as a receptionist that this is an emergency. So every medical practitioner that is there should be alerted of it, and obviously the head will then dispatch one to go and attend to it. But it even went to an extent where I had to be trained with first aid, because sometimes you'll find that students are coming in, and as they come in, they're that ill. So I need to know that whilst they are waiting for somebody to come, how do I receive them to make sure that also I'm taking them to the right person, or I'm taking them to the emergency room so they can be attended to. So it's not. It doesn't only become an administrative function, but also there are other technical aspects that one has to learn and be able to understand. And also the other important thing is that they will, as a receptionist, also have to understand where does your scope end, right? Because then the right person has now to step in. And I believe that it could be a similar kind of a situation where you find a person that works in a bank as a receptionist receptionist, they'll also have to know if a person walks in and say, I've got this kind of a problem, or I'm looking for this kind of an assistance, then they know, do they go to a financial advisor or do they go to the bank manager? Who do they go to? And also, that will actually save time, that will actually strengthen customer relationships, because they get in, they get assistance, and efficiently so that also then brings out a good name for the organization. So I worked as a receptionist, and I worked, I think, for about 3 years. Then I was then moved to become a personal assistant to the head of the department. And becoming a personal assistant to her then meant that my scope broadened. And one of the things that I realized in the beginning was that as personal assistants, as admin professionals, in any role as an admin professional, you actually need a community of people that are working in the same kind of functions as you. You have to create contacts, you have to create links, because in that way it makes your work a bit easy. So I then started building relationships around the institution, in different departments, in HR, in finance department, in the marketing department, and even in the academic side as well, because you find that as you perform your functions, at times, for example, you need to purchase something, and obviously we know there are processes that needs to be followed. But if you don't know certain things that, for example, you let's say you're purchasing an item for the first time, and we know how policies can be limited. So if you don't know the right person to talk to in the finance department, the whole process can take you much longer than if you know the right person to talk to. And also if you have built relationships, because you'd find that in any environment, when you have a good relationship with other people, your things move faster, because people have a relationship. So it's easy for them, even when your back is against the wall and you find that you have little time, you have to do something quickly, they are able to step in and assist you, So I worked, and I think one of the things that I had at the back of my mind was always that I need to let my work speak for me. Because one other challenge that I had, it was that I had entered an environment, or rather a career, where it's dominated by women. And as a man, as you walk in, there are those doubts that people will have to say, can you really be able to do the kind of work that is expected? Can you do it? Can you bring the quality that is required? Can you bring the standard that is expected? So those are other dynamics that one had to keep in mind to make sure that you basically do perform at the right level that is expected. And I worked as a personal assistant, and that's when then I thought, okay, I'm now in this space, and I need to broaden my community so I can learn from other people, also from other organizations, and not only my organization. And that's when I then started to Google and check what is happening out there, what kind of organizations are out there to assist office professionals, to support office professionals, and which ones can I actually belong to. And that's when I discovered OPSA. So I then became a member of OPSA, and I then actually participated on the awards, because OPSA has annual awards where it actually celebrates people that have done well in their organizations, but also in their sectors. And I then became a runner-up, which for me it was really a reassurance that with the work that I'm doing and how I am working, I'm actually bringing it on. And at that point, I had to decide to say, where is my career going? Where am I going? What do I want to become? And how do I then get there? And some of the important things that one needs to do is that when you get to that point, it's important that you think about what are my interests. what is it that I am most interested in? What kind of things do I enjoy doing? Something that if you can be called over the weekend and you're told that no, you're going to work over the weekend, it will not be much of an effort for you, because that's something you like, that's something you enjoy, that's something that you can do without struggle, right? And once you have discovered what is it that you basically have interest in, also then explore your abilities. What are you able to do? What are your strengths as well? Because it's very important that when you operate from a point of strength, because when you operate from a point of weakness, you're likely to take longer to complete your tasks, you're likely to take longer to master whatever it is that you want to master. But when you operate from a point of strength, it becomes easy for you to do different things, because it comes from a point of strength. Okay, so when you have done that, then the next step will actually be that you conduct a bit of research to find out what kind of careers are out there. And in the office professionals environment, we have a variety of positions that you can actually look into growing into. It could be office manager, it could be an executive assistant, it could be an executive personal assistant, it could be a administrative officer, all of those different careers or positions that you can actually grow into. But once you have learned the variety that is there, you'll then able to be in a position where you can identify which one resonates with you the most, which one do you feel that if you are in that environment, or rather in that position, you can be able to give the best that you are and be able to be a star basically in your environment. So I then started pursuing my studies, and in pursuing my studies, it was basically in line with what I felt that I want to do. And as I studied and working, I found myself that I then developed a platform. Basically, let me put it that way. I developed a platform in my organization, and it was called VUT Administrators Forum. So VUT is the organization, then the forum was Administrators Forum. So that the Administrators Forum that I developed, it was a platform where we would meet at least once a month. And when we meet once a month for an hour, we will actually go through different topics that we feel that they will be empowering to us. For example, in one of the sessions, we looked at the finance policy. So looking at the policy to say, in terms of purchasing, what does it say? What kind of challenges do we have? And how we gave each other tips on various things that people or other colleagues had challenges on. But also we then looked at how do we then also contribute in terms of the reviewing of the policy, to say, because we are the one who actually implement the policy on daily basis. We are the ones that are actually executing what the policy says on daily basis. And yes, of course, we do talk to our managers, but also they are the executives and committees that makes decisions when it comes to policy establishment or putting together policies. So then we look at how can we then contribute in policy review, and will then write memorandum to executive management to tell for us as administrators to be celebrated, to be for the work that we are doing. But also we didn't want it to be just a celebration, but we wanted it to be a celebration with an impact, that it adds value in our lives. So we'll find that when we celebrate it, at times we'll have somebody that will come to give us a keynote address, or we'll go to places where we are able to learn something in the process of celebration. And we enjoyed that throughout the years. And also we will then okay, thanks Presh for confirming that the sound is back. And also will then on that day choose the secretary of the year. And choosing the secretary of the year, we had also developed a process where people will vote for the person. So people will actually nominate. The first step was that people will be nominated. After nomination, then we'll then have people voting. And we'll have people that are outside the administrative profession to actually assist us in terms of the judging process, because obviously we were part of it, and we felt that we could not be as objective as it is necessary. So other people from outside, so our colleagues from outside our profession, would actually assist us in making the judgment to say who will win, and would introduce the person that wins on the Secretary's Day. And that, I must say, made us grow particularly in the higher education sector, because at some point we were able to hold the first higher education sector conference for administrative professionals, where we had speakers that came to talk about different issues. And I must say, we had a lot of delegates coming from other universities that are actually also office professionals that came in, and we shared about 3 days because there was the first day of arrival, the second day was the full day, and the third day was half day. And we thoroughly enjoyed, because people learned a lot from the speakers, but also we learned a lot from each other as well, because others, as they come from another institution, you share the experiences, you share best practices, and all of those, and it became a wonderful experience for all of us from there. And I was then approached by a head of department from another department that they want me to go and work for them as their personal assistant. And working for them, it meant that I am now going to manage two managers at the same time, and I had been used to managing one manager for quite some time, and that was an exciting challenge for me. Yes, it was a bit scary in the beginning to say, okay, how am I going to manage? I've never managed two managers before. What if I drop the ball? What if I don't crack it? What's going to happen? And all of this, and those kind of questions do get in your mind. But I thought it's actually a good challenge that I can get myself into, and I went. And as I went, one of the things that I did, which I feel that helped me a lot, was basically to take time to understand the whole department, how it functions, who reports to who does what is the role, and also paying attention to the culture of the department, because for you to be able to thrive in any environment, you need to understand the culture and how you can be able to basically blend into the culture. Because if you're not part of the environment, you actually struggle to survive in that environment. And after paying attention to all of those, then I was able to get in and be able to work. And I would say I did well, because they were happy with my performance. And in doing all of that, I then was able to stretch my knowledge, and was able to learn other things in the process. Okay, so that in that environment, learning all the trades and everything, and also I learned new skills, because now it was a different department, and obviously certain requirements would be different. So now I had to learn other things in the process, and at that point I had also now been chosen, or rather elected as a director at OPSA. So then I became more involved at OPSA, where we ran various programs. It was training as well, and also annual awards. So and then for me, from there it was growth. I then moved again to another department where I remember going into that department. When I got there, now became a PA to a director, and this director did not have one department reporting to her. She had 6 departments that were reporting to her. it was a mountain to climb because I had to adjust very quickly, understand the operations very quickly, because now other responsibilities basically fell on my desk, and I was actually expected to make decisions and move with things, particularly when she's not around. And also that for me, it was that, okay, now I have to learn, and I have to learn fast. How do I do that? It meant in the beginning that I have to put in extra hours for me to familiarize myself with the environment, to understand the different requirements from different departments, and also, as I said earlier, building relationships. Trying to understand who's the right person or the ideal person to go to when there's an issue or there's a question that you need to ask, or you need certain things to actually happen, particularly in when things have to happen fast. That's basically what was in my mind, and how I basically paid focus on it, and I was able to adjust, I must say, and it was quite a pleasing experience for me, because I had to in fact I learned a lot of things along the way, and in doing all of that, to me it meant growth. To me it meant that I'm adjusting to a different environment. Okay, so I then worked there as the personal assistant, and I must say that also along the way, for me, it was important that I do attend short courses as well, because there are skills that you want to be able to possess for you to be able to do your work in the best way possible, right? And it was skills like project management, where I realized that now I'm in an environment where there are a lot of projects that are happening, and I need to understand the project management cycle, for example, and also everything that has to do with project management. So I did the project management skills course, and that then empowered me and put me in a position where when projects came in, it was not quite stressful for me like it was in the beginning, because I understood the approach that I needed to use, and also the kind of tools I needed for me to be able to perform, right? So I did well there as well, until I was then headhunted by another organization, where then I then changed and worked there as a strategy and development officer. And now it meant that I am more dealing with things from a strategic point of view, from an executive level point of view, and one of the most important things that I realized happened in my life was to be an office professional from the beginning, because the skills and the knowledge and the experience that I had acquired over the years made my work so much easier, because now you're dealing with things from strategic point of view, from also governance point of view at that level. So dealing with administration for me was so much easier, because I had what I needed for me to be able to do that. So I just had to learn things that came from the strategic level, and also governance level, and understand what is governance about and how it works and all of those. But when it comes to administration, I was set. I was able to work and work very easy, and to an extent that I would even get comments where people would actually say, "Hey, you are such a professional," but it meant that I was able to put together a memorandum in a certain way that it was professional, it was a clear communication, they could actually understand what I'm communicating to them, but also even the look of and feel of it is that well, because those are the small things that people don't pay attention to, but they are that important, because also when you write any kind of communication to people, it represents who you are, so you need to be paying attention to such things. Okay, so I then had been able to move in a direction that I had actually anticipated, because in the beginning I was able to identify where my strengths are. I was able to identify what is it that I'm actually much interested in, and what is it that I am actually good at. And being able to understand all of that, I then took another step, the first step of then researching to find what kind of careers are out there, particularly the administrative profession, to say, with this kind of interest that I have, with this kind of abilities that I have, with this kind of skills that I have, how then do I build to where I want to be? Because I've always wanted to be at an executive level. How do then I want to get there? And I also then had, after seeing all of those options that are there in terms of which careers, or rather positions that I can be able to occupy from the administrative side and also from other sides, I then realized that, okay, basically now I have to structure my steps. So structuring my steps was basically to say, if when I move out of this position, what positions will I need to work to gain or to attain for me then to grow into that level where I wish to grow to. And that was intentional. Right? That was intentional because I took time to think about it. I took time to plan it. So it's important that you do get to be intentional about your career development, your career growth, right? Because when you're intentional, you also are able to identify the kind of skills that you need. You are able also to identify what should be your next step in you growing into the environment you want to grow in. And in that way, things becomes easier, because even when positions come or they become vacant, you are able to quickly identify which one you can fit into or which one you should actually aim for, because you know very well the direction that you want to take, right? But also, one of the things that I'd like us to be aware of, particularly in these times, is that technology has advanced so much. And as technology advances, it means some of the roles either become redundant, or organizations would actually do away with them, right? So in that case, you then also have to see that what is it that I can offer? And that's why it's important that you always upskill and reskill for you to be able to stay relevant and you to stay employable, basically. That when you apply, you can be considered for the position that you're applying for. But if you don't pay attention to such things, that's when changes come, you'll find that you don't become an ideal candidate that is needed in that environment. And COVID also happened. And as COVID happened, we then went to a total lockdown, and things changed in a lot of organizations. As we speak now, a lot of organizations, others are even operating totally from home, right? So those are other things that we have to think about, to say, in terms of me planning my career, how will it be affected by the advancement of technology? And if it is affected in this way, what is it that I need for me to stay relevant, basically? Because I believe that it is all about you staying relevant to whatever organization that will need your services. And also to say, as now things are changing, where other organizations are working from home and others are actually working from the office but with skeleton staff, how do you then fit yourself in that picture? How are the positions within the office professionals environment changing? And as they change, what kind of skills do they require? So you get yourself prepared in taking the right direction for you to stay relevant and stay needed and stay marketable in the environment. And also pay attention to issues of, do you want to build your career in one industry, or do you want to be able to move into different industries. If, for example, you are in the financial sector or the banking sector for that matter, you need to be able to say, do I want to build my career in the banking sector for the rest of my life, or at some point I will need to change and go into an engineering sector? Because also when you move into a different environment, there are certain skills that you require for you to be able to get in and be able to operate. And you then see what kind of training do you need, and also you know, how do you prepare yourself well for you to get into that space? Okay, so take time to be intentional about your future. As I said earlier, that it is not anybody's responsibility but your responsibility, and it is that important for you to make sure that you build yourself in the direction that you aim for you to achieve, or you aim for you to be in that space. Okay, so I then worked on the me moving from being a receptionist to building up to higher levels, until where I found myself basically being headhunted by other organizations, and being then moving from an administrative or rather fully administrative position, but also now to a different kind of a position.